Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Ton Deltic New podcast. So, on the last episode, we basically had a discussion about the Bill Cipher conspiracy theory. If you haven't already checked it out, please do listen to that episode. So, there was one element of that discussion that I feel wasn't touched upon enough. It was really intriguing, and that is going to be the topic of today's episode, which is basically about the human mind and why do people believe what they want to believe, which is basically their mind playing tricks on them in some instances. So, Kishore,
Okay.
as you were saying last week.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. So what happened was after we had basically discussed about this on last week's episode, the last episode. Basically, what happened was we kind of got into like this little bit of a predicament in a way where we were talking to each other about how this is borderline insane of one of Kiet's points where he would look in the mirror. I'm not saying he would look, but he found this source online that people would look into a mirror and just look at themselves and then ensue fear into themselves because they think that the mirror is kind of reflecting them and their thoughts, but in a very negative way. So I thought of this as an obsession. So why do people, like the main point here is why do people believe what they want to believe? I think that's what we can all agree on. So let's just talk about that for a bit. So Migza, take it away.
Wait, me? Alright.
Yeah.
Okay, as I stated before, I believe the human mind is a complex, interesting, and a fragile thing. When we are not doing much, our brains is always active, and we'll keep on thinking about things. So, as was previously mentioned, looking into the mirror, you will look upon yourself, and then fear will just start rushing into your brain. I believe
Okay,
that's pretty common.
Yeah, let's let Kiet actually explain what's going on with that
Elaborate,
mirror
right?
thing. So Kiet, you
Yeah.
talk about this.
Well,
So what
the
do you
study
mean?
I read,
What is this? Okay.
no, it's okay. It's just the previous episode touched upon Bill Cipher being there, right? And people being scared by Bill Cipher, something like that, because people are just actively trying to convince themselves that Bill Cipher is real. If they have nothing else to do, then they just go after conspiracy theories. And there's a point that I like to touch on because you're actively convincing yourself that there's something there, and that something can haunt you, and your mind just makes it real. It's like when you confuse reality with fantasy, then everything goes topsy-turvy.
Yeah,
Okay, look in the mirror.
exactly.
Okay, that's my point. Look in the mirror with these thoughts that you're trying to look for something to scare yourself. That's when you start seeing things, because you're actively looking for something to scare yourself, to prove that there's something there. Okay, there's nothing there, but you're just going into it. You're just looking into the mirror with the active thought of there's something there, there's something there, there's something there. And then your mind just manifests it. It can even change your appearance after a while of staring. So it's like people claiming to be tormented by Bill Cipher in their minds, in their sleep. They're the ones who are like really actively trying to force themselves to believe that Bill Cipher is real. So this theory is a bit easily debunked because, well, the mind is something that we cannot understand, nor will we ever understand it, because it's just a human brain.
Okay, here's the thing. Let's just assume that this theory is debunked, okay? So how does Bill Cipher's or any obsession, how does it drive a person to borderline insanity, making them believe what they want to believe? And this applies to literally every single conspiracy theory out there. People who believe in the conspiracy theory are people who have professed their beliefs. I think in a way, in a sense that they believe it no matter what happens, they're still going to believe it. Because okay, this is really interesting. I saw this flat earth theory documentary. I'm pretty sure everyone knows about the flat earth theory. And basically, these people who were running the documentary, what happened was at the end of their research, they proved that the Earth was actually round and that it wasn't flat. But then what they said was, okay, maybe we just made a mistake in the calculations. We'll do it all again, and that's how the documentary ended. So it's like they're
No,
actively
but that's just more an
choosing.
indictment on human ego rather than their mind
Yeah,
actively trying to convince them that they
It's more of a
want to
mix
believe
of
the earth is flat.
all. It's more like a mix of all because ego, like they're trying to prove that they can find something that doesn't exist, and then maybe they think it carve out a name in history or something, or they can claim to be part of the fan group that actually discovered something that wasn't supposed to exist. And maybe it could be that they just really have nothing to do and they just spend all their free time doing this.
yeah,
It's
Mingze. So
strange because
we had a
this
conversation. Okay, no, go on first, Rishwan.
no, but this doesn't just have to extend to like fears in general, but it could be related to anything. I mean, why do you think we have fake news and people falsely proclaiming that they can do this or they can do that? I mean, it's basically just people these days do not want to admit that they're wrong, or they choose to believe that something is right because they feel a sense of importance by believing whatever they want to believe, or maybe they feel comfortable. And when there is some external stimuli that proves them wrong or makes them feel uncomfortable, their mind will do whatever it takes to try and debunk that or try to justify to themselves that whatever they're doing is right. And that's just very unhealthy in general.
Yeah, so that was the day. I think Mingze, I was talking about this point before, where it's basically like falling down a rabbit hole, where you've fallen too deep down the rabbit hole. You've gone to a point where you are looking into a mirror or whatever that you're doing, and there's so many layers to your thoughts, and you are immediately going through fear. So, do you understand how deep you've fallen down the rabbit hole at that point? Like, Mija, I think you have something to say about that, right?
We are stepping, if you step too deep into the rabbit hole, let's take the mirror thing back into account again. Like when you stare at yourself in the mirror, a lot of thought processes through our mind. We keep on thinking of things like about one's appearance. But once we are out of things to think of, we start to think about things that we shouldn't think, probably about negative thoughts. And you look at yourself and then you just find things to keep thinking about. And then fear will just naturally come to your mind because have nothing to think about. Looking in the mirror is boring, not much happy thoughts can be thought of. In the end, you'll just think about fear. Like you might saw a reflection, just a normal reflection of yourself. You might even see like a ghost, spirits, or things you shouldn't see in general, which I don't think this is such a good idea.
Yeah, it's basically driving you insane with your paranoia. I think that kind of sums it up in a way. Your
Yeah,
paranoia.
paranoia. That's exactly
Yeah,
what it is.
your paranoia. Like some people, they fall too deep into the rabbit hole, and they just go into a state of fear. But then some people fear. Okay, this is gonna be really hard to explain, but some people fear that they're gonna fall too deep into the rabbit hole, and that fear of falling too deep is what it's what you unanimously call as paranoia. Like you're describing that as paranoia, as
I mean, isn't
you
that
are.
how most of the Bill Cipher theories originated anyway? And
Yeah,
people were so afraid that
they
he
were
was real,
paranoid.
and that if they shook that statue's hand, Bill Cipher would manifest in their thoughts. But by just thinking about it, it's led to whatever we've discussed previously.
Yeah, so like how like this obsession that occurs, it's like I think there's like a border somehow. Like it comes to a point where you don't have control of your own thoughts, and of course no human can control their thoughts in a very like systematic way, I guess. But in a way,
I mean, like,
it's
your
kind of like,
conscious mind can tell you one thing, but your subconscious mind, it's not like something you can easily harness, and that's just
yeah,
scary because your subconscious mind is way more powerful than beyond the realms of whatever your conscious mind can achieve. And these sort of things, when you leave your mind idle like that, when you start thinking about these thoughts, essentially it's going to manifest in your subconscious, and it's going to stay there because your subconscious mind has the capability of, like, maximizing these thoughts and like just creating scenarios that ultimately are just really, really scary and unhealthy.
Mm.
yeah. Do you have
Mm.
anything to say?
Yeah,
Not really, I guess.
yeah, we're talking about the mind. I'm gonna pull back about the topic of obsession. I think I'm gonna relate it to, let's say, people who are crazy in general, like psychopaths or mental patients. As I said previously, the human mind is kind of wide. You can think of all kinds of things, certain things that others don't believe, but then you believe in it. You know, it's kind of a contrast, I believe. Let's say some kind of psychopath, like let's say someone who believes in, let's let's say that someone's believing in people living in inanimate objects such as stones, dolls, etc. Like, I'm not one to judge them. Like, even I sometimes think that I have my own crazy thoughts. But people kind of have their own kind of mindset that they believe in certain things. I'm
Yeah,
not,
yeah. I think
I'm not
I
trying to
agree
judge
with you.
as label as crazy. I have my own crazy thoughts as well. It's just that
Yeah,
people
but
too rich in imagination and thinking about these inanimate objects are alive or any other kinds of beliefs that we normal people would call crazy, in general.
Normal people, as in people who did not go through that length of a thought process to get to where these people were.
If and also perceptions of normal varies by person to person.
okay, so like I was saying, basically I feel like it there's like a borderline here. I feel like it's not healthy, and I think that it's not right to basically distinct both imagination and insanity, and not insanity. I think insanity, mental health is something that you have to take care of, but like you cannot allow yourself to go down that rabbit hole. You need to fight your own battles. No one else can help you. But the thing about this is, it's not really insanity. It's just beliefs in general. So I feel like obsession, like basically, if I were to believe that Bill Cipher is real, like my thought process, like having a good imagination is good, but you need to learn how to distinct between your imagination and what is perceived as your belief. You need to be intelligent in that department. So what happens to people is people start to imagine all of these different conspiracy theories, and then what ends up happening is the fact that they move towards the fact that they are believing in what they have imagined and not so much in what's reality. And it's the
More
moment
like
like this shift.
it's like a
Like,
subtle shift when you imagine, like when you imagine something too much, and it literally becomes an obsession, and after that you just accept it as a
yeah,
fact.
and then it becomes a reality. Like I feel like this can apply to anything. Like I've once heard of a story of like a girl who was really obsessed with this guy, and then she would go to insane lengths just to get this guy to basically like her, I guess, or like um yeah, in a way. So like basically she would just do insane things, like something that what happened was she thought in her mind that this was going to be reality, like, oh, he's gonna really like me if I do this, then he's gonna be touched if I do this. But she was so swayed in this one way that she ended up doing so much crazy things for this one guy. But then in the end, it just didn't turn out that way because us as the people who are looking at this happening, like in the general reality of things, like our minds have not been swayed. And we're looking at this right in front of our eyes, and then we're like, good God, what's going on over here? So it's like what's going on? Like for us, it might not might seem insane. It's just so dumb, like what the hell are you doing? Okay, so like for us, it's like basically we're kind of like perceiving reality as it is. I don't think it's reality, like reality and insanity. This isn't really the topic that we should be talking about. We should be talking about the beliefs, as in she believed so much that what she was doing was going to sway everything in her way,
No,
like
but
to
that's
her
how powerful the
satisfaction.
human mind is. Like,
Yeah,
she
yeah.
believed in
It
it so
made her
strongly that
believe.
she had to act upon it and make it a reality.
Yeah, it was like it just like in a way swayed her own reality to compel herself to do this. And I know this can happen to basically anyone. Like, let's just like in a general example, if you like another person, there's this certain obsession threshold, I think, where it gets to a point that your own reality is swayed so much to a point that you think what you're doing is going to end up as what your mind perceives, but in reality that's not what's happening.
Can I inject something here?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but like, when you talk about obsessions, right? It just goes to show how powerful the human mind is. But moreover, when you think about, like, say, pathological liars, for example, like, you know how people say sometimes, like, oh, when you need to get a certain position or
Holy
job, you need to fake it
shit.
till you make it, and that sort of thing.
Yep.
It
Yep,
gets to
yep.
a point where sometimes when you start believing your own fabrication just to be someone you're not, you start to turn into that person, right? In some cases it can be a good thing, but it can also be harmful in another sense.
Yes, because
Like,
you're losing yourself. You're losing your own personality for doing
and
that.
you become your own lie.
Yeah, you turn into what you have envisioned, and that's basically your own subconscious taking control of yourself.
No, but I
Like
think
you are
for me,
supposed
like,
to be
there's two
in
ways of looking
control.
at this. Like, either you start conforming to whatever lie you tell people, or it just goes to a point where you keep repeating that lie to yourself too many times, where essentially you forget what is reality and what isn't, and you start believing that lie even when no one else around you sees it.
Yeah, and then you become incredibly upset, like so sad and moody, maybe depressed to a certain
Yeah,
extent
and
when that
that's
reality
basically
doesn't play out.
is
I
basically
feel
you
that.
living in your own delusion.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Mixer, what do you think about? I know that you've had some experience in this. So, what? Just tell us, what do you think about this? Like, you've had the most experience in this.
Yeah, as you may previously mentioned about the girl with the obsession, and also as I previously stated that human mind is kind of powerful. That when obsessions or when basically their own beliefs are not really taken care of or well managed, or they don't have a strong mental fortitude, it just spirals out of control. And then you become, like as what Richard mentioned, you become that lie. But I believe that you should have maintain a balanced kind of imagination or any kind of beliefs, because if we stray too far away and jump deep into the rabbit hole, we won't be able to accept reality anymore. We just keep living in our life. And then there's also about your ego. Your ego won't let your pride won't let yourself admit defeat or admit that you're wrong.
Yeah, they just won't back
Going
down.
on, you're just
They
gonna end up
need it to
hurting
be their
yourself or
way.
hurting others around you.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's like they need it to be their way. That's what you mean, right?
And that's
Yeah,
the really scary part, and that's when you
Yeah,
know you need to get help.
yeah.
that's
That's when you know
really
you need to get them. I feel like when you're going through your teenage years, this happens a lot because you still don't have maturity in thought. But as you mature, I think you begin to realize how this is
Yeah,
happening. I feel
goes
like
both
everyone,
ways, but like it really depends on the environment. Like if you have a good support system around you, you have friends who are willing to call you out if you're acting funnily or being a bit delusional, then I think it's okay. But if you are allowed to keep thinking a certain way, eventually you're going to go deeper and jump fully into that rabbit hole, and you might not be able to get out on your own.
yeah, I agree. So I think, like, okay, here's like my final point on this. The fact that I think as you're growing up and as your thoughts mature about this fact, I feel like you begin to understand like how your beliefs cannot be swaying you one way or the other, and this is what makes you a good human being. As a good person, like you need to believe your own reality. You need to perceive your own reality in your own way, but it has to be in a way that doesn't harm anyone. You know, and the thing is, I feel like as you mature, you might go through a phase where you yourself might feel lonely and sad, and like you don't have anyone to talk about this to. But I feel like you need to go through that in order to understand this, because once you're
Yeah,
past that
the
phase,
cliche finding yourself phase, but
yeah,
it really is a thing.
yeah. So after that happens, I feel like your fears will just start to be mitigated slowly. You just start to become a better person because you understand how things work. You understand the importance of how keeping your reality intact is basically how you profess your beliefs in your daily lives. Like, I think Kiat is a good example for this. Kiat,
How am I a good example?
like,
What you
okay,
doing?
just explain, like, through your own experience, right? I know you've had a dark and gloomy time as well, but then as you've come out of that, what do you think changed about you? Like, how are your beliefs impacted after that maturing phase?
What do you mean? What kind of beliefs? Which beliefs are you talking about?
As in, just the way that you're not allowing your mind to sway you too far. You understand?
Ah, okay. Yeah, like you said, we all have that tiny dark phase in our lives that because it's what comes with being a modern teenager. I suppose it's normal. But if you just get through the maturing phase, like just exit as a matured person, eventually look back and just see that that part was lonely, but it was not as bad as you thought it was. It was lonely, but at least you had other friends that could support you. You were not as lonely as you thought. Eventually, you get around the fact, and that's what starts or ends the maturing process. Either way, you just end up being more mature than you actually were. So, in a way, that this process is actually essential to developing a more mature mindset. You accept the fact that you are lonely, but you don't let it control you. You accept the fact that maybe you have problems with your looks, I guess. Maybe you're below average, but you just have to accept the fact, live with it, and don't let it control you. That's it.
Yeah. Minza, do you have anything to say about this before we wrap up the episode?
I agree with it. During a teenager, during anybody's teenagers part of their life, is the fact that they mature a lot, and that's what changes one person into who they are going to be in the future. I believe they need to separate. This is most important time where they need to separate their imagination from reality. It's because, like I said earlier, you will become the person where your mentality or whatever your thoughts are, your beliefs will shape you into the person you are going to be in the future. So I believe this is the best moment for you to get on straight in your head. Think about yourself, what you can do. If you're in a bad situation, then think about ways to improve it yourself. If you're lacking in certain departments, you can always make up for it with your anything else that you are kind of good at in general.
So
And with
basically,
that, I feel
all
like
right.
sorry for interrupting, but I feel like we've said enough. We don't want to overload you with more
Yeah,
information. I feel like this episode has ended on a high note. I feel like it doesn't matter what age you are, if you are going through a dark time in your life, and like every time you go through that little bit of fear that you might have, know that once you get past that phase, you mature and you become a better person as a whole. You become a lot more responsible, you become a lot more wary, and you become a lot more thought provoked in a sense where you stop making a lot of careless mistakes. You stop being, I guess, timid in a way, and you start to accept yourself for who you are, and you basically become a more responsible person. I feel like you know how to take care of your life a lot more better, and you won't start like you won't do stupid shit that's going to be harming yourself. You're not going to
maturing
go
maturing
like
is
yeah, yeah,
more an ongoing process. It's not something that you just experience once and then it's over. It's not like
yeah,
growing a plant, You mature over time. It's like aging fine wine, okay? Maybe in the first
yeah.
few years it's matured enough to be drunk, but you need to really let it sit until it's really old and fine. That's when it tastes best. So it's an ongoing process, really. You can't just go through something and just say, "Oh, I've matured. That's it. I can stop now."
Yeah,
No, it's an ongoing battle. Just overcome things and you grow from them. That's maturing.
I feel like the more you mature, the more like the less dumb decisions you make. As in, maybe you're eating super unhealthily, and then after you've gone past that phase, like maybe you're thinking about your health, and then what if like you gain a disease and then you can't do anything about it? Then you become more wary about your own health. Then you strive to make yourself a better person. Like you get your life back on track, make sure that you're healthy so that your life can go on. And I feel like that's very important for everyone to like realize. And I feel like the best way to learn about this is like we can't tell you, no one can tell you. I feel like psychiatrists and whatever mental consultants or whatever there is, I feel like they can't tell you this. You have to experience it for yourself.
Yeah, at
You
the
have
end
to
of the
find
day,
what you're good.
it's your personal journey. Only you can go through this. It's like it's through the rough times, through the bad periods and the good patches. It's how you take things in and how you accept yourself as who you are, and ultimately, it's what you take from those experiences that make you who you are and how you mature as a person.
And with that, I hope you have all enjoyed this extremely thought provoking episode of the Ton Does It Do podcast. We will all see you in the next episode, and goodbye.